Coach's Corner this week, a little bit of a different setting as what you are probably used to when watching this program. Normally we go on location to these different schools, go in the locker room, kind of get a little bit more personal with the coaches, but today we are at one of our advertisers, that is Fife Street Brewing over here on Summer Street, and we're talking with the girls head basketball coach of the Riverside Warriors, head coach John Frisby. Coach, welcome to the program.
Thank you. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here.
I appreciate that. So just to start, Coach, I mean, obviously you guys have had a season that you define as competitive, so kind of go along that line. I mean, I know you guys just got back from the Greenbrier a couple days ago. We'll talk about that separately in a second, but just give our audience a little bit of a perspective of, one, how the season's gone for you and how your girls have grown throughout the course of the season.
Season's been a very good season, even though we haven't won in a little while. The last few games have been a little disappointing as far as wins and loss, but as a coach you have to take away from it that some of these games that we're in now, we've never been in before. The GWs, playing the Nitros, Cabell Midland, Huntington. We've never had the opportunity to even really be in those ball games, and this year we're competing, getting to halftime, have an opportunity to take it further and potentially get a win, and just not been able to close it out just yet.
In regards to the win-losses, obviously, as you mentioned, you've been competitive in a lot of these games that you probably thought 4 or 5 years ago you probably weren't going to be, but talking to your girls after a hard loss like that and just trying to regroup them and move forward off of that, how important is that, especially whenever you do have an up and down season like what you guys have had?
I think you have to call back on the success you had early in the year, the games that you won, the games that you try to get them to understand how that felt, try to get them to remember how that felt, what they were doing, the lasting impression that put on them, and then tie that into, again, what I just said about we're competing with teams now that we haven't competed with in the past, and show them that they do belong there, that they can compete with these teams. And I think a lot of it goes back to not what I believe or what our other coaches believe, but what they believe in themselves and what they need to take it to the next step.
In regards to connecting with these girls on a more personal level, I know as a coach you always like to do that. I know whenever you and I have talked, that's always one of the important things that you try and succeed early on. What's that connection, what's that bond like, especially with relating to these girls as we are entering the second half of the season?
I think you have to make them understand that you care about them more than just as a basketball player. Go out to their other sports that they play, go to their band concerts, go listen to the things that they do, have conversations with them about, where they want to go after college, what they want to be when they grow up. I think ultimately as the coach of any team, of any sport, your mission is to make a better, more rounded, successful adult. And I think sports is the vehicle that we use. Majority of these kids may not play college or sports ever after high school, but the one thing that they all will be is an adult, future mother, wife, and definitely employee. So you're trying to shape them to have a better future.
In regards to a core value, along that line with the relationships, what core value do you preach to your girls that kind of goes hand in hand with just continuing along and growing relationships with these young women? Accountability,
being accountable for your actions, being able to step up and say, hey, that's my fault, I made that mistake, and let's figure out how to fix it.
Let's go back to the Greenbrier now. I mean, obviously you guys played down there. You guys were one of 4 teams to compete in the Battle for the Springhouse event, which I've personally been to. Fantastic venue, fantastic event that's been hosted for the last couple of years now. But just talk to us about that. Biggest takeaway you had from this past weekend playing in the Greenbrier?
The experience for the girls. I think for us, Riverside's never been to a state tournament, so I liken going to the Greenbrier for an opportunity for these girls to show up, be treated like they are special, be treated like they're on a different stage, which was the Greenbrier stage, which was a phenomenal stage. Incredible opportunity for us, for Riverside, especially for them. And at the end of the day, I mean, I told them this in the locker room before the first game against Justice in Greenbrier East. You may not ever remember the score or the winner of the game, but you'll always remember this time with the people that you played with and the experience you had here.
As we enter the second half of the season, kind of piggybacking off of the Greenbrier, what's something you're wanting to see from your girls from this past weekend and the first half of the season moving forward as we enter the second half of the season?
Well, for us, we're on a tough stretch. We've been in our MSOC conference stretch for a week or so now, and we're still there. Have a tough game tomorrow against Bo Miller in Spring Valley, and then we have Parkersburg South coming in. So typically our schedule is all of the best teams in AAA and Quad A, and it's sometimes a daunting task to try to get them up for that. But I think fortunately for us this year, it's a little better because they are starting to understand that we can compete. So it makes it a little easier to get them to understand and to perform.
Talking about the MSAC real quick, and I think you brought up a really good point. You look at the MSAC, you got teams like GW, Parkersburg South, Parkersburg, Spring Valley, Cabell Midland, Huntington. I mean, you can pretty much name all the member schools in that and just talk a lot about how each coach, each player, and players for that matter are excelling at the highest level, making it the best conference in the state of West Virginia, in my personal opinion. What's different and what have you seen from this conference this season compared to years prior as the girls coach at Riverside?
Well, the first thing is we added 2 more teams this year. We added Parkersburg South and Woodrow Wilson, which we already played Woodrow, so that was, they just became a member of our conference, came back to the MSAC. But, I guess the main thing is, again, kind of going back to what I said earlier, being able to say that we were in games like the GW game, played well with them up to halftime. We were in the Cabell Midland game, played well with them to halftime. Huntington played well to halftime. We had a dogfight at Capitol at an in-school game. Little things like that. And then, you go to the Greenbrier and you end up playing Parkersburg, who's an MSAC member. I didn't really want to see them up there, but unfortunately we did, which means we have to see them again in a couple weeks. So it's a tough place to play, but I truly believe that if you're going to compete at the highest level, you have to play the best teams.
In regards to the coaches collectively in the MSAC, and this is just from my point of view, having covered the MSAC Media Day they host up at Little Creek Golf Course, it just seems like every single one of the coaches get along. It's almost like a coaching fraternity in a sense. Talk about that. How much of that is valid, and talk about the relationships that you have with coaches outside of Riverside.
I think it's a 100% valid point. I think it is a fraternity. I think 4 years ago, this being my 4th year at Riverside, the first time I walked into that MSAC meeting, coaches like Jamie Lemaster and Bo Miller, now Elias Gregory at St. Albans, Lonnie Lucas is a legend and a truly, absolute wonderful person, but they all welcomed me in, and I was absolutely a nobody. So they made me feel like part of their fraternity. They made me feel like a good coach. They're approachable. They give me advice all the time. And I have to say, reaching out to the other side of it, Rick Green has to be one of the nicest, best people you would ever meet. I could call him, text him at any time, and he'll give me advice about basketball or anything else. And you just don't get that anywhere else.
I know we could sit here and we could talk about what you guys need to improve on, but let's shine some light now on some of the positives that's allowed you guys to win some of these games this season. In your point of view, what's allowed you guys to be competitive and also win some of these games as well this season?
The growth of Ava Ward. Ava Ward is just a tremendous athlete. Her sister Jada Ward, 1 year younger than her, another tremendous athlete. Jada is a quad A high jump champion, so the rebounds are going to come from these two. I have a really good supporting cast. I have 2 seniors. Sophie Bear is one of our point guards, and Kiana Banks. And then I have a junior guard, Anna Roop, who is our main point guard. All of these 5 complement each other well. I have a couple girls that come off the bench that you have to rely on, but the 5 starters that we have really given a lot, put a lot of time into it. And some of those fruits of their labor are showing. It's just doesn't always show up on the scoreboard.
Does it make your job easier then whenever you have a collective group, especially your starting 5, that do have such a tight bond and they do play so well off of one another that whenever you do get into certain situations, you can kind of rely on them just to kind of make a play compared to in the past, you're teaching them mid-game, like, this is what you need to do. Now it's to the point where they know what they have to do. Yeah,
before we started this, you and I were sitting here talking about basketball IQ, and I think that's one of the things that we are starting to develop at Riverside is the basketball IQ, and I think that comes from playing together, learning where you're going to be on the floor, learning how to move without the ball, learning how to do things that you're not necessarily used to or comfortable with.
In regards to Ava Ward, I mean, obviously she's been a fantastic athlete at Riverside. You mentioned her sister Jada as well, but just in regards to Ava, what's different about her this season compared to these last couple of years that you've had her?
She's really bought into the basketball. I think this year I think she's finding that she truly loves basketball, and she would potentially like to be a basketball player in college, which again starts to pique her interest and her basketball knowledge and her basketball want to. Again, both Ava and Jada are super track athletes. So in the past, basketball was kind of the second nature, but I think now basketball and track are probably equal to Ava, and probably still Jada is still a track athlete who likes to play basketball. You mentioned your 2 seniors, and I want to kind of shine some light on them as I normally like to do on this program or anything else.
the importance that these two girls have had on this program, and especially on your life as well. I know whenever you and I talked a few minutes ago, I can just kind of hear and understand the emotional attachment that you have with them just because you've been with them for so long. When it's all said and done and they walk off the court for the last time as a Riverside Warrior, what will they have meant to this program?
It's like having kids. I mean, it's you can liken it to having your own daughters. You want to see them. You want to see them move on from Riverside, move on to college, either become a college athlete or a professional and have a successful life as whatever they choose to be. But it's going to be tough because being with them for 4 years, you form a bond with them. You know, Kiana and I have been together since really middle school. You know, I met Sophie when she came in as a freshman, and you know, you spend all this time together. You can't help but want them to be as successful as possible.
In regards to yourself, I mean, obviously you've been here for a couple of years now. What's different about you as a coach? I mean, obviously, you know, we've talked about relationships, we've talked about in-game adjustments, but you personally as a coach, how do you think you've developed and grown as a coach these last few years?
Just learning to navigate the speed bumps. And again, I go back to the MSAC. You know, the MSAC is a tough place to play, and you have to figure out a way to get over those. Some of the speed bumps are kind of big, and when you take some of the losses that you have to try to figure out a way to put that behind you and move on to the next game. And unfortunately for us, sometimes that next game is just as big a juggernaut of an opponent that you just faced. So you have to just kind of put it in perspective, figure out what you can do, and try to move on to the next game up mentality.
You mentioned the speed bump, and that's actually a really interesting terminology in regards to basketball. When you go back and you look at these quote-unquote speed bumps, is that more of an in-game thing that you're seeing, or is that something more so when you watch film or whenever you digest a game, just a couple of minutes or maybe a couple hours after a game happens?
I think more so that when you're digesting the film, when you're watching it, because unfortunately the MSAC games are so fast, it's hard to do that mid-game. I mean, you try to use your timeouts, try to call it, try to slow it down, maybe adjust a little bit, but it's just a tough place to be in, and unfortunately in the past, you know, we dig ourselves a little bit of a hole. So we instead of fighting the other team to try to win the game, sometimes we're fighting to dig out of the hole first before you can even fight the other team.
I know a couple of years ago you guys won a sectional game, and just the importance of seeing that sectional victory that you guys had a couple of years ago and what that meant at the time. What would it mean to you to get another win under your belt as a coach at Riverside in the postseason?
Oh, it would mean everything, because it's just like the trip to the Greenbrier. It shows the girls that they belong. It gives them a sense of pride that they earned their place where they are, and it also shows them that they can compete with these girls and they're not different than them.
In regards to this regional format now with Quad A, I know everybody else from 3A down to Single A are still in their regional perspective, but with Quad A, there's literally a North region and a South region. You got 10 teams, and I think a little over 10 teams in the North region. But just give me your collective perspective of that. Do you like this? Are you in favor for it with just having two set regions in Quad A? How would you fix it? What's your perspective?
I think my preference would be to go back to the sectional games. I think that gave a little bit more opportunity for the schools to have a step up to get to where they need to be. You know, the sectionals, if you want it, you earned a sectional championship. You got a trophy. That's something you put in your case. That's something you could say, hey, we accomplished that, and we won that first sectional game. For us, it was honestly like going to the state championship. But you know, then we went to the regional game and got to go up and play at the time Governor Justice and Greenbrier East, and you know, we came out on the losing end of that, but it was still a really great experience. So personally, I like the other format. You know, this will be the first year for really this format. Last year was a little different, but this year, you know, last year was just the regional format, but it was in the smaller region. This year will be the 10-team region. So I think I'll go through this year and see how it feels, and then say, well, we should go back. But I think either way, you know, the ultimate goal is to try to get to that state tournament, and you know, we would love to try to make it there.
Let's go back to your players real quick. In regards to your players, we've talked about Ava, and you mentioned Jada as well. You mentioned your two seniors, but in your mind, go more broad with this, and from a roster perspective, who's been someone in your mind that's really caught your attention with their growth and development throughout the course of the season?
Well, as I was talking to you before, we have a junior point guard, Anna Roop. She's probably one of the better players, better shooters on our team. She's done a really good job. I think all of our girls have elevated their game. I've got the six-man, Katie Johnson, extremely good softball player. Softball's her sport. Basketball's something she plays for fun. So, again, it kind of goes back to, you have some of these girls. I have a girl named Sarah Barley, very good shooter. But all these girls have a little bit of a niche. And I think if they would just push the envelope a little bit more, dig into basketball a little bit more, they could contribute much more than they are, and I think they would surprise themselves.
So then along that line, then I was going to mention this, but since you brought it up, I want to ask you about this. Having multi-sport athletes, okay? Personally, I'm a fan of it. I know you in the past you've coached football, you've coached basketball as well, so you have that diversity in regards to coaching multiple sports. How important is it for young people, especially high school players, to be playing multiple sports at a school?
I think they should play every sport they can as a child, as a kid, as a high school student, athlete, because I think it makes them much more well-rounded than specializing in one different sport. And then you can go into the injury side of it. I don't really know the science of it, but it seems to be in this day and age we're seeing many, many, many more ACL tears. Now, is that because they're only playing one sport? Are they doing too much in one area and not enough in another? So I think the science needs to be looked at to see, specializing it may not be the best option, but I think some of these kids feel that they have to specialize because if I don't get really good in softball, I may not get that college scholarship. And I think that's taking the sheer fun out of the athletics part of it, that they're making memories as kids in high school and middle school, and they should play as many sports as they can.
A couple more for you, and I want to go back to this past week that many, many, many people face, whether it be in the state of West Virginia or in our region, and abroad even, with the weather. Obviously, there was a bunch of cancellations. I think myself personally, I covered one game, and that was on Friday, but just Monday to Thursday there was nothing. So from a coach's perspective, whenever you go a period of time with no games played and all of a sudden, hey, we got 2 games this week and we're guaranteed to play with such little preparation, how difficult is it just to try and regroup after having 1, no school, but then 2, you're not able to get into the gym either?
I think it really depends on your athletes. And with us, I think it did definitely hurt us a little bit, but I think sometimes, especially when you have some injuries, it's positive because they actually get a break. They get some downtime. Most of your girls at this level are doing something anyway. They're doing something physical. They're not just laying around. So, but it does allow you to heal some of your injuries and kind of get back to 100%.
So then do you think along that line then whenever you do have multi-sport athletes, whenever they are in they have a well-conditioned body just from playing other sports like soccer, for example, and then whenever they do have a break like they would in basketball, do you think that kind of helps them kind of get their lungs back? Because once you go from soccer, you're going immediately into basketball, and then you're just going go, 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 go. And once you get that break, it's almost like a breath of fresh air almost.
I think it is both mentally and physically. I think mentally it lets them kind of take a break, step back, and not have to worry about what am I doing basketball-wise, whatever sport it may be. But then physically it gives them a chance to just take a deep breath and relax for a little while and not have to worry about the mental and physical rigors of it.
And then finally, put your thinking cap on. I know you and I have talked a lot about different things surrounding high school athletics, whether it be this transfer rule, now even last year with name, image, and likeness coming to the high school sports realm here in West Virginia. Reclassification is obviously a big thing. Postseason play in basketball is obviously going to be relevant as well. What's something in your mind that you think the state needs to do a better job with in regards to continuing to make high school athletics what it is for these students?
A lot of times I think we need to take a few steps back. I think we're getting too far into the professional side of athletics at too young of an age. I think that middle school athletes and high school athletes, they should be able to be kids and enjoy the sports that they're playing and it not be who's getting this, who's giving that, where can I go. And I think that as adults, we're starting to make it a job in middle school. And I think that's taking the whole student amateur aspect of athletics out of it, and I think that's really kind of a shame for the kids. It was fun as a kid to be a kid and to be able to play these sports, and I feel like adults now are kind of taking that away from the kids.
Well, Coach, I appreciate your time. Thank you, as always, for your time and just your effort in regards to just being patient with me. I know we've been wanting to do this now for a couple of weeks now, but I appreciate you. Good luck the rest of the season, and go Warriors, as they say.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate the opportunity Riverside does, myself personally does, my girls do. But again, and I said this prior before we got on camera, I appreciate you as a journalist taking the time to give our girls and all of our athletes at Riverside and all the schools in West Virginia the opportunity to be recognized for all the time and effort that they put into sports.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, obviously, you know me. Just this area means a lot. I know you know that as well, being a guy from the Valley and also coaching up at Valley as well. So you understand the importance of it.
Absolutely.
Coming back home from Morgantown, it just means a little more, as some would say.
Well,
so.
you do a great job, and just know that you're appreciated by a lot of people.
I appreciate that. As the girls' head basketball coach of the Riverside Warriors, head coach John Frisby, be sure to check out our coverage from now until the end of March at the Boys State High School Basketball Tournament in Charleston by going to our website, wvgazettemail.com. Follow us on Twitter at Gazmail Sports, that's G-A-Z Mail Sports, and be sure to follow us on Facebook at HD Media Sports. And also, by the way, be sure to check out Fife Street over here on Summer Street. They're actually a couple of doors down from DPDO, so come in, get some great food, hang out. My favorite sandwich, Coach, I don't know if you've ever eaten here before, the crab rangoon sandwich. I'm just going to go out right there and say it. Best sandwich, probably the best thing that they have here. So come in, get something to eat, hang out, check them out, Fife Street Brewing, and we'll see you all next time on Coach's Corner.